And he says it's really very simple. We all know that nichnas yayin, you have to say, when you drink wine, out comes the secret. So basically, every guy who's a descendant from Esav, hayadayim, yedei Esav, right? The hands are the hands of Esav. And they live with violence. You say, what are you talking about? My neighbor, look, everyone's so cultured, everyone is so decent, we live in such a wonderful society, law abiding. That's because it's covered up. But when you drink, you reveal your inside. And then when you reveal your inside, the animal that's inside of you, and in particular by Goyim, the violence and the sword that they live by comes revealed. But Eid is different. You find them arguing in the shul about everything. And in business, they're arguing. They're always arguing. They never get along with each other. And then when they sit and they drink together, what happens? Suddenly they kush sich. There's a hungry. Why is that? Because deep down there's a real love that one Jew has for another Jew. It's just that again, it's hidden with conventional whatever. And when you take a little l'chaim, it becomes actually revealed. This is a vart. It's a famous vart. I would just add. It's interesting that by Chassidim they sing. Even people that don't have good voices sing, and the more l'chaims they have, the more they sing. So, and I would say it's the same idea because every chassid deep down knows he has to be happy. There's the joy of being a chassid, and the joy, more importantly, of being Hashem's child, being a yid. But it's rough, It's not so easy every single day to sing and dance that you're a Jew. But when you take a little bit of l'chaim and you stop banging on the table, and it can be a sad song, a happy song, because nichnas yayin yitzasad, what we're happy is there's real love between a Jew and a Jew, and there's real simcha that's actually in our heart. We just have to reveal it. There's a charm. There are many stories of the Alter Rebbe. We'll start off with a charming story. It's almost like a children's story, but it actually did happen. As you all know, let me just first tell you, tonight, tonight is actually the same day that the Alter Rebbe passed away. The Alter Rebbe is the first Rebbe of Chabad. I'm sure you probably know this. Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the founder of the Chabad movement, and he. In addition to all of his greatness, in his days, Napoleon invaded Russia. And Alter Rebbe took a very strong stand that Napoleon is not for the Jewish people. I already spoke about it in the show, so I'm not going to repeat it. So basically, when in 1812, when Russia was actually, he even took Moscow, at that time, the Alter Rebbe had to run away. And he was actually, Napoleon knew about him. Number one, he was a very prominent leader, and he took public stance against him. But also, there's a tradition that Napoleon was familiar with magic, or magical arts. Let's say Zuckman. And essentially, what he wanted to do was to get something from the great rabbi and to use it for his power. So when the Alter Rebbe had to run away, he ran away, it was before Rosh Hashanah. They cleaned out the house. There wasn't that much to take really, and they went. When he was 2-3 miles away from the city, he asked permission to send back 2 people that they should look at the city to make sure there's nothing there. And all they found was pantoffel, which is like slippers, and they found something that you make challah with, and they took it. Before they left, basically the Alter Rebbe said you should burn the house. And they put kerosene or oil, whatever it is, and they started a fire. Literally, when the people that had started the fire ran away, that's when the first troops came from Napoleon, and they wanted to see the house of the Alter Rebbe. They couldn't put out the fire, and they couldn't find anything of the Alter Rebbe. So they put out in the city, if anyone has a coin or something from the Alter Rebbe, the general will pay a lot of money for it. However, if no one shows up with anything, and he finds out, he'll be severely punished. But that just shows you that something was going on over here, that Napoleon somehow felt that the great rabbi that was opposing him had spiritual powers that he actually wanted to take. The Alter Rebbe was on the road for 4 months. And you have to remember, this is now in the beginning of the winter.
Where was he going from?
He was running from Le'adi, and he went to Smolensk. I can't pronounce most of them. There was a whole bunch of places. And essentially he was always a little bit ahead of the French troops. during the month of Teves, which is this month, it's a very cold month now, even in San Francisco, but I mean in Russia it's the height of the winter. He caught a cold and he was sick for 5 days and he passed away Saturday night, which is tonight, Parsha Shemos, just like over here, and it was a little bit before, I think, 11 o'clock. He made Havdalah and his neshama left him.
How old was he?
68 years old. 68 years old.
That's a good age for those days.
Yeah, well, I mean, they say it's the gematria of Chaim, right? Chaim is Mem, is 40, Yud is 60, and Ches. So he was 68 years old.
Wow.
But the truth of the matter is, you say it was a good age.
Yeah, for that period it was.
But I have to tell you that the Tzemach Tzedek once said that all of the Schneersons were strong. They're physically strong. And they would have lived much more than their
So that's
ages.
psychologically-
However, the fact that they took the tsuris of Klal Yisrael so deeply, and they had private audience called Yechidus, you might know this, that when you had a private audience with the Rebbe, it's not like going into an advisor. Basically, and especially, certainly not a psychological advisor, because today, the mark of a professional is to keep a distance. If he feels too much for the person, he can't give advice. Yechidus is the opposite of that. Yechidus basically means a person goes to a Rebbe and discusses something that bothers him, so the Rebbe has to spiritually take off his garments and put himself into the shoes of the Chassid to understand what he's feeling. Then he has to remove that and put on his own garb as a Rebbe. But there's no such thing as you keep a distance. That's what psychiatrists are supposed to do. Otherwise, it's called self-transference. I forget already what they call it. And you get disqualified if you feel his pain. No, you got to be. But in Yechid, it's just the opposite. The Chassid and the Rebbe turn into one for a moment. So it's very, very strenuous, both mentally and spiritually, for a Rebbe. So he said that all of the Schneersons were physically very strong, except that this Yechidus in the private audiences took away a lot from them. But in any case, the Alter Rebbe passed away on a Saturday night, Pasha Shemais, which actually fits in the same. So the very fact that it's his yahrzeit as well, and what happens on a yahrzeit? What happens on a yahrzeit is that it's the accumulation of a life. So what all of the good deeds that a person does comes together the last day of his life, and then he goes up to heaven, literally like a flame of fire. Every year, spiritual truths repeat itself. So tonight and tomorrow is a time when there's a great spiritual light from the Alter Rebbe. And you say, what does that have to do with us? The answer is, he was a Rebbe, he was a teacher of Klal Yisrael, so it affects all of us. And those of us that actually study Tanya or are associated with Chabad, which is the movement that he started with, that he actually created, we have like sort of an in, that we actually have a deeper connection to the tzaddik who's being elevated tonight. But anyway, let me tell you this charming story. So the story goes that this is like in the late 1780s, that there was, in those times, Jews had to present, actually the Tsar always had soldiers. And the Jewish community also had to present soldiers to the Tsar's army. But really, the Tsar didn't want Jews, and because he felt they were all weaklings and no good anyway. So basically, they would ransom them instead of showing up to be in the army. They would give a certain amount of money, and that would be the equivalent of. Of course,
the equivalent of what?
The equivalent of the soldiers. In other words, instead of getting 10 soldiers or 5 soldiers from this and this village, they gave X amount of rubles to the royal treasury. They were marked as having given their fair share.
But they were sending Jewish boys, age.
That's the Kantanistan. That's something else. That's the Kantanistan. That was the decree about little kids. That was much harder. But just as adults,
much later.
but that was later. That was in the middle of it. So we're talking about 1820, 1820, 1830.
The same thing. Like
No. But this was now for children. This was adults also had to somehow go to the army, but it was much easier to give money. Yeah, but there was always dependent on the commandant, dependent on the police. If they wanted to make trouble, they would take you anyway. So the story goes that in one of the towns, not too far from Liadi, there was a boy who was an orphan from both father and mother, and there was a girl that was orphaned from father and mother, and from two different families. And what happened was that the village or the city raised these two children. Of course, we're always interested in making shidduchim. So it didn't take that long. When they were 15, 16 years old, whatever it is, they began to say, the people that were supporting the boy and people that were supporting the girl, decided that they should meet each other. Neither one has parents. They'll meet each other. They'll have a chance for happiness. They'll start their own family. And it worked out perfect. They were happy with each other, but they had no parents. So basically, the town decided to make the wedding. There was a lot of simcha, a lot of joy. This guy brought, everyone brought something. And it was scheduled to be this and this day in the shul. In the meantime, it wasn't a very big, city, it's really more of a town. The head of the town was the local police guy. He was a big anti-Semite and a big drunk, and he just liked to be catered to. And believe it or not, he took it personal that everyone's talking about the wedding and they're not talking about him. So he figured it would be a perfect opportunity to extort money from the Jewish people. In the meantime, because neither one of them had family, the town people decided to invite rabbis to participate in the joy. And one of the rabbis that was invited was the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe said, I'll come. So let's make believe the wedding is supposed to be on a Tuesday, and everyone's preparing already Monday night for the thing, and they hear a terrible thing. The head of the police arrested the chassan Monday night, the night before the wedding, and he said that essentially, according to the laws and rules and regulations, you're supposed to go to the army. So everyone went crazy, and they sent him a delegation. He's getting married tomorrow night, and what are you talking about? It's not true, this and that. And he said, in my books, that's the way it's going to be. And then he said, but of course, if you make it worthwhile for me, maybe I could renegotiate. So they understood that this guy was doing he had doubly. He was, thumbing his nose against the Jewish people so he could make them really feel terrible. Plus, he was going to make a lot of money. The next day, when the Alter Rebbe shows up, he sees people walking around really crestfallen. He says, such a great mitzvah to make a chassan and kala happy, and they're both orphans. Why is everyone walking around like this? So they told him the story that there's no wedding. There's no wedding because he's in prison. And the Alter Rebbe got very upset. He said, what do you mean he's in prison? Well, why don't you get him out? He said, because he asked for a astronomical amount of money. So the Alter Rebbe said, no, so then let's raise the money. So they said to the Alter Rebbe, we have a list of all of the givers, and it doesn't even come to a third. So the Alter Rebbe said, let me look at the list. And he looked at the list, and he said, are you sure you didn't leave out anyone? He said, no, well, these are people that have been giving to the community chest for years. He said, are you sure? He said, yeah, we're sure. He says, that's strange, because when I was coming into the town, I noticed there was a very large tract of land with a beautiful house, and that must belong to a Jew. Is his name on it? Said, him? Oh, Getzel. Yeah, we don't talk about Getzel. Is anyone here Getzel? No, okay. That's why I didn't say I told you. We don't talk about Getzel. I said, why don't you talk about Getzel? He says, for years already, essentially, he wasn't always very rich. He started small. And then as he got more and more money, he became more and more stingy. And over the years, he's developed a reputation that he gives nothing. And in fact, if someone comes to ask, he insults them. How does he insult them? He insults them by giving them like a kopek, like equivalent of a quarter. So the Alter Rebbe said, good, that's the guy I want to meet. So they said to the Alter Rebbe, you're going to be embarrassed, and it's not your covet to do this. Let's go to the other people. Alter Rebbe said, we have a mitzvah to try to get this. Anyway, they were very upset that the Alter Rebbe chose to go to him first. They wanted to go everywhere. I want to go first. So there's a delegation. The Alter Rebbe leads the delegation, this great rabbi, together with one or two people, and they come to this house. It's essentially the day of the wedding, which might or might not happen. And it's early. The Alter Rebbe knocks on the door, and out comes a butler. He sees a rabbi. He's very calm. He says, "What is he?" He said, "We'd like to see the master of the house." He said, "Let me see if he's available." He's available, and the Alter Rebbe goes in with one or two of the people. Fellow's very respectful, shakes his hand, sit down, tell me what the problem is. And very succinctly he says, we have a young man, he's an orphan, we have a young lady, she's an orphan, and the city has put together the wherewithal to put them together. Everything is going good except that bad man is holding them for ransom. So he said, "Oh, that's terrible, how much money do they need?" "Well, they need, 500 rubles. He said, "That's a very big sum of money." So the Alter Rebbe says, "Yes, and that's why we're coming to you. We know you're a good-natured Jew and that you have a good heart, and we're sure that you'll be able to participate." He said, "I will." And the guy is saying to the Alter Rebbe, this is where he turns out to be an idiot. And the Alter Rebbe is very calm. And the guy goes to his bank or whatever it is, opens up the safe, and he says, "How much do you need?" 500 rubles. "Let me see what I got." And they see bunches of, and he takes out a kopek. Not only is it a kopek, like a quarter, but it's actually moldy on it. In other words, it hasn't been used.
Mold.
There's mold. And the fellow next to Alter Rebbe is mortified, and he doesn't know whether he should try to smack the guy in his face. "Shame on you. If you don't want to help, say you don't want to help. But don't play us like a bunch of idiots." "Oh, yeah." And he didn't know what to do. But the Alter Rebbe sort of kept him calm, and he took the coin, and he said, "I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your generosity is overwhelming, and I could feel your goodness and your concern. This is going to help us in a major way." The guy's thinking, what are you talking about? It's not even worth it. It's nothing. And the guy's listening, yeah, that's true. That's true. And what happens is, he shows them to the door. That's it. And when he wishes the Alter Rebbe good luck in his collecting of the money, and the Alter Rebbe wishes him a lot of success in his business, and they walk out the front gate. As soon as they walk out the front gate, the butler runs after them and says, "If it's okay with you, please come back." He realized that he should have given more. So the guy says to the Alter Rebbe, "Should we go back?" He says, "A Yid wants to give tzedakah. What's the question?" A Yid wants to give tzedakah. We go back. So they go back, and he says, "Tell me again, just very succinctly, why are you here?" So Alter Rebbe says, "We have a boy and a girl. They want to get married. The bad guy is holding him for." "You're right. How much do you need?" 500 rubles minus a kopek. So he says, I'm gonna make it easier. Anyway, he opens it up and he does the same thing this time. Not 1 kopek, 10 kopeks. Together didn't equal not even a quarter of a ruble, And the fellow just glaring at him, But the Alter Rebbe says, such generosity, such warmth, such a Jewish heart, such beauty, such excellence. Thank you so much. May Hashem repay you. And the guy almost is thinking, why is the Alter Rebbe saying this? When all three of them know that this was a second insult. And yet the Alter Rebbe was making believe like it wasn't an insult. Anyway, he walks them out, they leave, and then, as they're about to go, a third time. Came a third time, the man said to the Alter Rebbe, "Please, let's not go back. It's clear that he's just trying to humiliate us. That's why we never go. I told you don't go to him. He's a no-goodnik. Getzel has nothing to do with the Jewish community. He has a heart of stone, and he's not open." And the Alter Rebbe said he wants to give tzedakah. Look, he already gave tzedakah. He wants to give tzedakah? How can we say no? So he came back a third time. The whole story repeated itself, and again he gave a kopek. And again, the Alter Rebbe thanked him. And as he was about to get up to walk out for the third time, the rich man said, "Please sit." And he said to the Alter Rebbe, "Why are you indulging me when I'm insulting you? Why do you keep on showering with blessings when you know and I know and I see he knows that this is a joke?" Alter Rebbe says, because every mitzvah is precious. And no one knows what's doing in the heart of someone else. And we might think that another person should give more, but actually we don't know. Maybe for that person, what he's giving is already the maximum that he can. It's not a question of how much money you own, It's a question of how much can your heart tolerate. I don't know. You were very kind. You listened to the story. You participated. You made the appropriate. You made all the right sounds. Why should I think that you're not sincere? If that's all your heart can give, then I accept it. May God bless you. When he said that, which made sense, but it was said with love, he began to cry. And he said, Rebbe, I'm going to give you the whole thing. And he basically he said, I want to pay for the whole wedding. So the other guy already closes his eyes. He became a believer. He heard that the Rebbe is a big tzaddik, he can make a miracle. He just saw a miracle in front of his eyes. A man that had nothing to do with the Jewish community, and then suddenly became open. But the Alter Rebbe then said, and again repeated, thank you, blah, 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 blah. And he said to the Alter Rebbe, perhaps you would like to know why I gave you the kopik. He said, if you want to share with me, yeah, I'd like to know. He said, I'll tell you. He says, as you probably heard from the people, I'm very wealthy now, but I didn't start off like that. And I was struggling. And one day, one of the people came to me. I didn't have such a beautiful house. I had a small house. One of the people came and asked me for a community fund. And all I had that day available was a kopik. I had more money, but not with me. So all I had was a kopik, and I said, all I have is a kopik, please take it. The guy got very irate, very upset, very insulted. He said, a wealthy guy like you, that's all you give me? Shame on you. Threw it in my face. And I got very humiliated. And I said, he's judging me. He knows what I'm capable of giving. He doesn't know anything. And the chutzpah to throw it back to me? You know what? I don't believe these people that collect money are doing it for a mitzvah at all. They're all on their ego trips. And they're judging me before I even start. You know what? The next one that comes, I'll give a kopik. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, the next day someone else came for another charity. He gave a kopik and he got the same response. And you know how the Yetzer Hara works. It justifies it. And when this happened 2-3 times, I said, you know what? I'm not giving any more. Period. I'm out of here. All the community wants is they're a bunch of leeches. They just take. They don't give, they don't explain, they don't understand, and they're not. And what happened is I became wealthier. And the wealthier I became, the more the demands of the community was. And whenever I offered a kopik, they would spit at me, they would make fun of me, they would say, are you trying to insult us? And I said, fine, if that's what you want, that's what will be. And I've kept that kopik in my safe. He said, you're the first person that did not judge me. You're the first person that accepted a kopik, sincerely. I gave a kopik for tzedakah, and you said, that's beautiful. God should bless me. And I tried it a second time, and again. And the way you explained it was, maybe that's what I'm capable. Now I realize that there are people that collect tzedakah properly, and I want to be part of the community. And of course, that night, there was a great wedding, and he danced, and they lived happily ever after. The point of the story, though, is it's such a story which is so appropriate to the Alter Rebbe and to Chabad in general. Because imagine if a person were to go to an Orthodox rabbi and say, Rabbi, there's the yahrzeit of my dad coming up, and I've never put on tefillin. I'd like to put on tefillin once, but never again. And I'd like to show up into shul, but I don't want to say the Kaddish. And I prefer that you don't count me in for the minyan. When you start making all of these things, chances are the guy would say, you know what, this is not a shul for you. You want to honor your father, be part of the minyan, say the Kaddish. Don't start playing games with me. This you'll do, this you won't do, Go to the shul down the corner. Now, maybe the rabbi is right from his perspective, but maybe he doesn't understand that this guy is very complicated, truly complicated, and the only thing that he's capable of doing at that moment is this particular mitzvah. Why are you judging him that he could do more? Why are you judging him that the mitzvah that he does is insincere? Maybe it's very sincere. So what the Alter Rebbe was the key to unlock the heart of a Jew is to see it for what it is. It's open, it's receptive, and it's sincere. And that story of the Alter Rebbe, which had a happy ending, that he paid for the whole wedding, is actually a beautiful lesson for each and every one of us. we could ask for the world, we should demand of ourselves the world, but the bottom line is, every mitzvah that you do, whether it comes before or after, even if it's in isolation, if that's the best you could do at that moment, Hashem will accept it. L'chaim. Yeah.
I have a question on your story. The question is,
You know, in general, in Yiddish, expression, akasha if a maisa, a question on the story. You know.
it's not a question on the story. It's
Rabbi
actually-
Ahron.
How am I going to get back if I keep
It's not a
checking?
question on
By Uber.
By Uber.
it's not a question on the story.
Where's the car?
It's on the way.
Were you driving here?
You know what? It's okay.
It could be there for Sunday,
Rabbi,
right?
this.
Okay, yeah.
If I remember correctly,
This one.
Rabbi says,
maybe I heard it from you.
this is
I don't
strong,
remember the
strong.
source.
120.
But
Bourbon.
you mentioned that
Which one?
to give it tzedakah, it's also
Whoever
a habit.
quotes first.
It's not-
I'll take
Some
this
people,
one.
they just didn't get used to this. So,
Это
for
one.
example, in this particular story, maybe he had to give 1 kubik and 10 kubik to get into this habit.
I agree with you. That could be part of it as well. Some
Yeah, an
questions.
atrophy of the hand.
But the only thing is, everyone said only a couple. Forget it. In other words, they didn't let him go
It's
further.
not, it has to open up.
Yeah,
It's not
but
like one time.
It opens the hole.
mitzvah geredes
It's
mitzvah.
like
Yeah.
you need to be one.
Нет, Смирнов ничего не вышивает.
But it's very hard. Sometimes you see a person and you know he could do better. You know, and you say, why are you doing this? You know.
Это мандарин.
You don't judge people.
I had a story this week. For last Shabbos.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Where this guy was nudging me to learn with him.
the first.
And so last Shabbos, it was, after a lot of l'chaim, and I told him, basically, like, the point of learning is that it should influence your behavior.
He came to see son.
And so Sunday he texted me, he's like, Rabbi, I just want to say that I'm canceling our learning because I don't want to disappoint you, and basically telling me that his learning
Was only for learning.
was only for learning and not to influence his, especially he disagrees with the concept of putting on tefillin. So I let it sit for a few days. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. And so Thursday, Gershon sends me a text, and Moshe Tzellner, like, maybe we should bring him. We have a little class going. Maybe we should invite him. So right away I messaged Moshe, by the way, this is what he sent me.
Right.
Don't
Don't
not
push.
ready.
Yeah, don't
He's
push.
not ready. Don't bring him just yet. And so right away I said, I messaged him, I said, why don't we, we didn't even get started. Why don't we just go for coffee tomorrow morning? So we met Friday morning.
But no bracha.
Don't you let me catch you saying it, bro.
Secular practice.
So long story short, he agreed. This was somebody who came to me and asked me to learn with him,
Right.
and it was just he agreed to learn, and his idea was like he was afraid that his action or doing mitzvahs is going to portray him as being radical and so I was just explaining to him that the idea of, like, he has one son, and all his nieces and nephews, they're all not Jewish. All his siblings married not Jewish. His cousins, they all married. He's the only one who married Jewish by not by his, not by choice.
Maybe not by choice.
It wasn't what he was looking for. We just married somebody Jewish. That's it. He fell in love and happened to be somebody Jewish.
No, but
It's ridiculous, that statement, not by choice.
Whatever, you know
If
what
you
I'm
get
saying.
married, it's by choice.
Well, he didn't marry somebody Jewish intentionally.
He didn't look for a Jewish girl. The fact of the matter
Right,
is that
right.
he married a Jewish girl was
So
by
I
choice.
asked him, "You want
but
your
his
son
Sanders
to?"
was a Christian school.
He asked him, "You want your son to marry Jews?" He said, "Of course."
He's a tzaddik.
So
Married a Jewish
right?
So I want to meet him. He's a
So I
tzaddik.
told him, the whole idea of it's not
very
just
hard to
do
talk
as I say,
He
do
is,
as I do. Anyways, Lloyd, we're gonna get. He understood it better, but it really emphasizes exactly the point. Is that you shouldn't judge people
Even though all feels like she was like,
by your own intention, your own measurement.
you know, like how it goes.
for
Like,
that.
you feel like a little bit, oh, you're Jewish? You said, you're Jewish, right? Is that? It's like, it's funny, he came by. It's like, you have to
Is it as strong as that?
no. No, you just like the family. Are you going to study about your father, maybe? Because
if it's gonna come, I don't know.
What about Eve? Why?
I don't know, I'm very shy talking about my parents.
But your father was a public figure, so,
Even though, okay,
it's a good enough excuse.
you know something, you keep on asking me.
I will.
But in the meantime, when I was in Kfar Chabad a long time ago, over 30 years ago, those of you that might know, Kfar Chabad is the Lubavitch village that was made by the previous Rebbe. After the war, there were Jews that went in the DP camps in France. Many of them came to America. And essentially, after the war, he started a Lubavitch settlement in Kfar Chabad, which was called Kfar Chabad. At that time, it was really a farming settlement, and it's a very interesting history of Kfar Chabad. Kfar Chabad has many yeshivas now. This is gigantic. It's actually not a kfar. Kfar means a village. It really qualifies, population-wise, as a city, a small city or a very large town. But because the previous Rebbe called it kfar, the Rebbe insisted that they do not incorporate as a town or as a city.
It just got street names.
No, really, that's a big thing. That's really, really a big thing. But when I was there, it wasn't a farming village, but it was still, in comparison to today, a little bit primitive. There was only one store, stuff like that. There was only one major shul and two small ones. Anyway, my friend in Kfar Chabad was Fischl Jacobs. I mention his name because those of you that want to Google, I didn't. But if you Google him, you'll see he's like the Karate Kid. He was basically grew up in Vermont, and
Where? In Vermont.
in Vermont, in Vermont, yeah. And he won he was a karate expert as a kid growing up, and he kept on. He was I don't know. He won some type of I think the U.S. is divided into 4 different sections. Anyway, he won the top. Interesting enough, I had a cousin whose name was Shmuley Hecht, a blessed memory. Shlomo Zalman, my uncle from Chicago, had his oldest son. His name was Shmuel. I knew him quite well, though I was much younger than him. He couldn't see well, whatever. And he was the first shliach in Vermont. And he met this Fischl Jacobs, who was a college kid, who was, who had just won karate. And anyway, they hit off, and eventually he became religious. One of the things that Shmuley got him to do was to go to Israel to study. So when I was in Kfar Chabad, he was in Kfar Chabad studying as well. He was just a beginner. But one of the things that he has, in order to become a karate expert, I mean, not one of these guys that goes to school, 9 months later he's a blue belt, another 3 months he becomes a black belt, if he's already a year and a half, he's already a master. He went through the old-fashioned way. It took many years, and you have to be very, very mindful of doing crazy exercises until you actually become very good at what he does. And he applied that same craziness of thought, of discipline, to his studies. Anyway, we were friends, and he actually is much better than me. He's a big Talmud Chacham. He wrote many books. And he has he has a book on Taras Mishpacha. How old is he? How old is he? He's my age, in the early 50s. And he was also he was a major. He was given. I think he was given the title of a major. He was in the Israeli prison system. You know what I'm talking about?
I heard the name.
Anyway, Israeli prison system.
He wasn't in my class.
Anyway, he's a very, very interesting guy. Really, really an interesting guy. And so what's amazing is he had a yechidus with the Rebbe. And when he went into yechidus with the Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe, should he start looking for a shidduch? So the Rebbe said yes. So he said, I don't know how to do it. He was religious in Kfar Chabad. His family was not yet religious. They were still in Vermont, So he said, something, he gave him some practical advice. Your friends should find a shidduch for you. So let your friends know, and they'll already talk to the appropriate things. Anyway, and he said, but I don't think anyone's going to marry me. I'm just about tshuva. Anyway, the Rebbe was very positive. You'll mind, whatever it is. So he actually went back to Kfar Chabad. A couple of months later, a friend introduced him to a friend who introduced him to her daughter, whatever it is, and he got engaged. When he got engaged, he felt that he should go back to Crown Heights for another yechidus. So he went back to Crown Heights for the holidays, maybe it was the high holidays, and he went into yechidus and he told the Rebbe the good news. He says, since last year, you gave me a bracha, the bracha has been fulfilled, and we're getting married this and this place, and this time. So the Rebbe said, what are your plans for the future? He said, I'd like to maybe study for a year in the Kollel, just to make sure that I know what I'm doing as a married man, and then I'll go into business. So the Rebbe said, no, and what about getting smicha? He was shocked, completely shocked. Smicha? I'm about tshuva. And I'm only like 3 years in yeshiva. So what's smicha? So he was just in total shock. And the Rebbe said, I think you should think about smicha. He came out and he was just amazed. Why does the Rebbe want him to have smicha? He's a nobody. It was a tremendous accomplishment to be a karate expert who's now turning into a frum gid, To make the long story short, he got smicha. He wrote the Rebbe, good news that he has smicha. So the Rebbe knew, and what about smicha on the next level? Anyway, the bottom line is he has dayanas, and he got it not from Kfar Chabad, he got it from the state. He took all the state. Big Talmud Chacham, really.
That is very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's really very difficult. Anyway, so I saw he had a living. Was giving over my encounter with the Rebbe, and he said everyone tells stories of the Rebbe, miracles, and that. He said, for me, the biggest miracle is the Rebbe saw in me what I could never dream about. I came in to get a bracha that I should be a religious Jew. And I want to find a religious girl, and I'm concerned who's going to want to marry me. And the Rebbe said, didn't see me as a person who's capable of being a religious Jew. He saw me capable of being a Rav, a teacher, an instructor of Judaism for others. He said that empowered me, and that's since that Yechidus, that has kept him strong. So the point of it is here, the first story I tell you is, you got to be happy with a rusty nail, with a rusty coin. But the truth of the matter is, you have to think really big. And you have to, I don't like to use the words believe in yourself, because we only believe in God. You don't believe in yourself. But to think small about what you're capable of doing is an injustice. And that's perhaps one of the most fascinating things of the Holy Tanya. We learn it, a couple times a week together, and sometimes we just laugh, or I just laugh. The name of the book is The Book of the Middle. For the mediocre guy, for the average bloke, this is your spiritual guide for life. And you read about loving God and fearing God and not having any taivas and serving Hashem always with joy. I mean, it's like, who's he talking to? He's certainly not talking to me. He's talking to another Lubavitcher Rebbe. He wrote this book for his son. That's what he wrote it for. No, he didn't. He wrote it for me and you. Talking about what we're capable of doing. To have a Rebbe look at a Baal Tshuva who's only from a couple of years and say, no, when are you going to become a Rav? And it wasn't said as a joke. It was said like, I see in you, you could be a Rav. Why are you happy with just being religious? Yes. Why are you happy just with staying in Kollel for a year? Stay in Kollel for 10 years if you have to. Do what you're capable of doing. The Alter Rebbe opens up a book. Tanya, you gotta be a tzaddik. Don't be a Rasha. And this continues. It's an amazing empowerment. Because when you think you're simply not capable, you say, we aren't capable. If we weren't capable, it wouldn't be, the Rebbe would not actually talk to us like that. And then when we think about, in today's day and age, and we say to ourselves, how many of us, even by the table, but in general, how many people are thinking about the Mashiach's coming, or the third temple being rebuilt in a reality? The answer is not that many. Not that many. I'm sure there are, but not that many. And the Rebbe said, why does it have to be reserved for only certain people? I just remembered something. I remember when the Rebbe came out with Sheyibana Beis HaMikdash, we should start singing it. I don't know who I heard it from, but I heard from a big thinker. And he said something like, he says, there's a famous story of the Chafetz Chaim. And I'll tell you, even though he's not a chassid, but he was a great tzaddik. The famous story of the Chafetz Chaim, he died in the early 1930s. You all heard of him. Wrote the Mishnah Berurah, about not speaking Lashon Hara. Very great personality. An awesome personality. He was a Kohen. As a Kohen, he believed firmly that the Mashiach was going to come. and he was an expert in all of the laws of a Kohen. And he had a son-in-law that he said, I want you to open up a kollel where they study only about the Beis HaMikdash, because when the Mashiach will come, we're going to need people to know what to do. He can't answer all of the questions. So he really believed with the sense of the coming of Mashiach. So the story goes that he was a poor man. He didn't have anything much, but he always had an extra kapata, an extra long coat. And he said, this is like a Shabbos kapata. This is what I'm going to wear for the coming of Mashiach. I think someone said that he had a suitcase that was always packed. In case the Mashiach comes, he should be ready to greet him. It's a beautiful story, and it really tells you something about a person, that in his wardrobe, you understand, he had something ready to be worn when the Mashiach comes. I mean, that's real. So this person said, that story of the Chafetz Chaim is what every Jew is supposed to be feeling today. You understand? We tell stories about that. Oh, the big tzaddik lived with the sense of Mashiach is about to come. And the Rebbe said, why do you have to be a very big tzaddik to have that? Why can't we be guys like us? And at the same time, we're enjoying this life and working with this life, praying every single day. We know this is not the ultimate, even though it's pretty close. Anatoly, it's a little bit.
I just want to say that everybody here is already dressed for Mashiach.
Yeah, that's good. There's also spiritual clothing, but
we're there as well.
We're there as well. Yeah, I'm saying, but that it's like, in other words, there's a balance. You have to be willing to give a kopek, even if it's rusty. If that's all you could give, that's all you need to give, at least at that moment. But at the same time, you have to see yourself as a person, like they would say about the Chafetz Chaim, his great love for the coming. That should be natural to us. And in terms of serving Hashem, the Alter Rebbe told us what to do. We have a Tanya. It's Sefer Shel Beinanim. It is doable. It can be done. If not every single day, part of the day, part of the week, we could actually be mentioned. We could actually be much higher and much holier than we think we can. L'chaim, we should recognize our potential. What?
My wife just asked me, is it okay if she comes with Ina? Actually, wife wants to go. No?
No, not a good idea.
No?
No.
Right, no.
L'chaim l'bracha.
No.
No. I'll tell you what, I'm leaving
not enough
10:30. You can invite any girls you want down out here.
That's nice. Okay.
Da 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 da
Why not?
something about my father.
L'chaim first.
L'chaim l'bracha.
Finish the bottom.
I'm not really going to talk about it. I'm just going to say one word and then go further. Basically, it's to a certain extent, it's not easy having a very prominent dad. He was a very, very prominent Rav, and he was a Rav of the Sfarbrengen. Now, what they feel in their heart, I do not know, but superficially, they show so much respect for the rabbi. It's scary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like when he walked, everyone stands up. After Shabbos, you know, Chacham and the
I just want to let you know that's exactly what they feel in their heart. Okay,
then it's beautiful. You understand? And I mean, my father would never sit like this with his balabat. Never. I mean, when he came into the house, it was like the rabbi is, you know, it was like this. It was like weird, you know. Not, I shouldn't say weird. It was actually quite nice, but for Lubavitcher and for So, but anyway. It's sort of hard, you know what I mean? You know, looking at that image. First, he was a good-looking guy. He was 6 feet. I mean, there was a lot of personal charisma that he had as well, which is hard to know whether we all have it or not. The bottom line is, you know, because he was always put up there, and he sat on a platform and all that stuff, and he, Baruch Hashem, actually did a heck of a lot for the community. It was sort of hard to match him, or even to walk in his footsteps. So. One brother, without mentioning his name, tried to imitate him. I actually have two brothers, and I took the opposite approach on a personal level. I'm not going to try, I'm not my dad, and I'm going to just do my thing. Anyway, that's part of the reason why it's hard for me to even do personal stuff, because it's a complicated vision that I have of my dad. It was all good, but I'm just saying in terms of whatever. But I want to point out something about children, okay? And this might talk to some of you people, it talks to all of us, because I'm including myself in this. And you have Chaim Ber, and when I told you about something, you said, "Oh, you also have a Chaim Ber." Yeah, I also have a Chaim Ber. I think everyone has a Chaim Ber. Just letting you know. Everyone always thinks that the other guy, everyone thinks the other guy, that's such a model family. I mean, I wish I had that. You know, I got to tell you, everyone has their pekel. Pekel means a package. Everyone has a package, and you'd be surprised at the intensity of the package, because a package doesn't always have to mean a terrible thing. A package means how you deal with it. You understand? So for a pampered person, not having breakfast is a catastrophe. You know, for someone who's not pampered, they can do it. So surahs comes in different sizes and but everyone, you can't measure who has more surahs because everyone is different. But anyway, I saw a beautiful vart, and I saw it from Rabbi Gaizinski, so I'll say it b'shem Eimrei. There's a wonderful midrash that most of you know. So I'll say it quickly. But most of you know the midrash, but I, for myself, had never heard this interpretation, which I'm going to share with you. The midrash goes that it says that Moshe was a shepherd by Jethro, by Yisro, right? And Hashem appeared to him in with the burning bush. So the midrash says, it almost sounds like he had to be a shepherd before God appeared to him. What is it about a shepherd that makes you worthy of prophecy? So the Medrash tells a story that Moshe Rabbeinu was the shepherd over a large flock. One day he noticed that there was a sheep that was missing. So he went to look for the sheep, and he saw the sheep next to a brook of water drinking. Said Moshe Rabbeinu to the sheep, "I didn't know you were thirsty. If I would have known, I would have carried you." Says the Medrash, when Hashem saw the dedication of Moshe Rabbeinu to a sheep, it was his responsibility. So he didn't just go home. He looked for the sheep. And not only that, he carried the sheep back. He said, if that's how he treats the sheep of Jethro, he'll treat my sheep, the Jewish people, perfectly. That's beautiful medrash. So this rabbi has a question. The main idea of the medrash is to bring out the fact that he cared about everyone. And that's the idea, right? That he didn't just look at the sheep, but he saw one sheep was missing, and he went out to find it. So why do we have to know what he said to the sheep? What would have been missing in the story if he saw the sheep, and then he brought the sheep back to the flock, right? And that would have been the perfect example of who Moshe Rabbeinu is. That he brings back the lost sheep. Why do we have to have this funny statement, oh, if I would have known, I would have carried you? So this is how he reads it. And he has a question. In general, sheep stick, you know,
You told us at the class.
yeah, but I didn't tell this part. That's why I said it quickly. This part I didn't tell you about the
You
class.
were not
It's not
there.
because he didn't get mad at the sheep?
No. Nonsense. I told you I'm going to say something and to say then. I still remember what I said on Thursday. I didn't drink enough. Anyway, I even remember the stories I said last year. Usually, it goes for like 16
You
months.
put all of,
Okay. Anyway, so the question is, why does he have to say that? So he says basically, sheep don't walk away. Sheep are timid animals. They go in a herd. So when ask you a question, if you're a shepherd, and suddenly you see you're leading 150 sheep one place, and one sheep starts walking away. What are you thinking to yourself? Meshuggah sheep. What got into you? 150 of them are following me. I know exactly where to bring you. You're a nut. But not only are you a nut because you're going away from everyone else, but you're putting yourself into danger. Now, if you're a shepherd and you're thinking like a guy in the 21st century, you're saying, no, you know what? I know what the sheep is doing. This sheep is a rebel. This is a chutzpah sheep. This is a sheep that wants to show disrespect to me. This is a sheep that wants to make my life miserable. This is a sheep that wants to endanger all of the sheep, because if I start looking for it, I'll have, you know what? I'm not going to play his game. Let the sheep go to hell.
Why? You just eat it.
Or let it eat. Instead, what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu followed the sheep, and when he saw the sheep drinking, what did it say? He said, now I understand that when you went away, you had a need. You were thirsty. You weren't a meshuggah sheep. You weren't a rebellious sheep. You weren't a sheep that was trying to make my life miserable. You simply had a need that I did not know. If I would have known, I would have brought it to you myself. That's the beauty of the story. Not that he looks for the individual, but he understands that the individual has a need that has to be filled. And when it doesn't feel it being fulfilled, it goes away. A minute, let me just finish what's the point? The point of it is we all have, for teachers, we have students that sometimes misbehave or sometimes leave school. If we have children, we have sometimes kids that misbehave, and right away we say, this doesn't make any sense. I'm a good father. He has no reason to act so disrespectfully. This is ridiculous. You know, there's some rebellious streak in him. Either I'm going to beat it out of him, or I'm just going to ignore him. But perhaps there's another possibility. Perhaps there's a possibility that even if you have many children and it's working well for 8 of them, maybe one of them needs a different approach. Instead of saying to yourself, if it works for 8, it should work for the 9th. But the 9th is not the 8th. So, but most of us, and speaking from personal experience, get very upset with that kid. We get very upset with that student. I'm teaching the class, 16 kids are with me. Why is that kid not with me? Because he's a chutzpah. You know, maybe he's looking for something that you're not giving. And if you could only find what he's looking for, then he would come back. The greatness of Moshe was he didn't judge the sheep to be a bad sheep. He understood in retrospect that the sheep was thirsty, and he wasn't giving it because none of the other sheep were thirsty. So his goodness was, if I would have known, I would have given you the water. And that's the mark of a leader. You understand, the mark of a leader is not, for example, to deal with, if we talk about a Chassidic leader, he's dealing with his Chassidim, he has 500 families, and he hears that there's one of the families has kids that are off the derech. So he says, fine, the way to keep us strong is to excommunicate them. That's it, they're finished. They're not part of the group. Why? Because it's clear as the sun that shines that they, whatever we have is good, and they're rejecting it. If they're rejecting it, they're bad people. And perhaps there's another reason. Perhaps they want to be part of the Chassidic family, but they need something that you're not offering. So if you're a Moshe Rabbeinu, you don't judge them and you don't excommunicate them. Instead, you say to yourself, what is it that they're looking for? Perhaps I could bring it in.
Every sheep matters.
No, but that's
It's not only every sheep matters, but every need is
Black Lives
important.
Matter.
Oh, you're gonna get excommunicated.
I'm dressed in my black tonight.
L'chaim, Chassidim man.
Black hats matter. Black hats
That's
matter.
exactly what he said.
said. You know, it said like Moshe Rabbeinu was able to see. We are not Moshe Rabbeinus, you know what I mean?
Hashtag Black Hat.
No, so the answer
But
is,
you're
You're
right,
also wearing a
like
black
every
hat,
kid,
that's
like, you
There you
know,
go.
everybody's,
It's
I
a
agree, so
novel.
it's a great story, but like I said, Moshe Rabbeinu, he was able to.
so he was a leader, but the fact
We have
that
to
we
make example.
we're
We need to
lead-
learn.
no.
How do you apply it to your...
The answer is you're Moshe Rabbeinu
You
for
will.
your family. Every person is a leader for someone. So you could be a leader in your family, and yet they actually call you in English the head of the household. You're the Rebbe of the household. That's what it means, head of the
They
household.
filed jointly.
Oh, yeah.
And the rabbis had time to like meet with individual people.
No, that's a rebel, you know.
Yeah, so
But I'm just saying, that's a
cannot-
great leader. He has time to meet with every.
We
individual
take the
person.
easy way out. They're not listening, there's
Not like
something
he
wrong
had
with
time, he
them.
made time.
Rather than they're not listening, there's something about us, may not be wrong, but there's something about us which we're not giving.
Yeah.
It's very challenging. I mean, I don't have an easy
Wow.
way to do it.
You
but
know,
it's-
I mean, it's a great, I mean, it's
Okay, something to think
but you
about.
know, no, but it's a great approach, like with so many different things. It's like you try like for a day or two, it's, you know, try a day or two, but you know, then it goes down.
We need to change our education. We have to change it. Trying to change others.
Yeah, like you said, like, we have to be changed, like, you know, that approach, because one
This
thing
is
might
the
work.
very difficult task to change ourselves.
Taders.
Yeah.
This is another one from Purim? This one?
No, that's a freshly brewed.
I thought he was pointing to me. He's from Purim. Honest assessment from a colleague. It's very humbling. You know?
Yeah, I'm playing slowly, like the one Purim we did at my house. There were, like we finished like some good ones.
No. From
Some
Purim
good
was
ones.
about Shabbos.
I know, but he also brought one like this.
No, that's not from Purim. Like Shabbos. The one from Purim went in 15 minutes.
It wasn't.
In
there
10
wasn't-
minutes,
there
like Shabbos.
wasn't
Your
one.
father.
There wasn't one. I think it was just
He laughed. I don't know. He said like,
yeah.
I drove. Why did I drive? He was
Yeah.
like his father was like,
He drove 2 blocks, so he was.
I told him like, why did you drive? He's like, yeah, I don't know. After like, it was like. So Rabbi, I had a story about your father. You gave her. I mean, again, he was. But what I mean, like, was it different? I mean, like, but you said he came home. He was a rabbi, community, part and stuff. But it should be some. I mean, I read a book. Obviously, so many great stories. That's why I'm saying, like, you probably have something.
So you share a story.
Yeah.
No, what story?
I bet you he didn't read the book.
I got it from Rabbi Hecht. You know?
But he gave it to you to read.
Well, please let Rabbi Hecht.
No.
One last question. So basically, if you're telling us that your father was so prominent and has a big charisma and they had a very big respect to him, so what happened after he made this statement about it's a political after he made this statement about Rabin
Right.
that he endangers Jews, why did he lose his position if he was so respected? I mean, it's really
a good question. I don't have the best answer. I was in California, so I was out of the whole thing. When I visited my father 8 months later, that my brother Shia, who was involved, didn't want to talk to me. He says, "You don't know anything." That was the greeting. Hi, what's going on? You don't know anything. So I didn't even try.
Wow.
But essentially, one or two things I could say, but it's not for the praise of Jewish people. But I could tell you, it's not the shul. What happened is it came from the Israeli government. I don't know, from a lot of say, not a lot of say. At that time, the head of the consulate was
He already died.
a lady. No, she was a lady, Colette, Collett or something like that.
When was it?
And this is in the story of Rabin, basically. In the bad old days, Rabin was a prime minister of Israel, and what he basically said, I'm going to go on a path of peace with PLO. Okay. At that time, the state of Israel was literally torn in the middle. It wasn't a fringe it was literally 50% one way, 50% another way. It wasn't a small thing that was against it.
It's the same thing.
right now.
In a way, it was much worse than
It
that.
was bad.
Half of Israel are for occupying, the other half are against.
So let me just tell you what happened was that my father gave a speech, and again, that itself tells you how powerful the shul is. It's a very, very powerful shul, very rich shul, and it has 1,000 families, whatever it is. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry that came from Israel would stop by the shul for a photo op to raise money, whatever it is. And he got up and he basically said that what Rabin is doing is wrong, and he quoted the Rambam. In Hilchos Reitzeach, the Rambam writes about what is the laws of a Moser. A Moser is someone who's a Jew who endangers a fellow Jew. So all he did was he quoted. He says, I don't know. He seems to follow. He seems to fit into what he's doing is endangering Jewish people. What happened was 2-3 days later or 2 weeks later, I don't remember exactly what happened. He was assassinated. So people went crazy. I mean, literally crazy, because it's the first time since the times of Tanakh that one Jew assassinated another Jew. The only other time we have it is in times of King David. So the state of Israel went crazy, and the people of Israel, they went Meshula. There was a witch hunt. Anyone that was religious was turned out to be a Meshula, and if they didn't get up there and say Al Chet Shechatonu Lefanacha, we sinned, they were hounded. Rabbi Ginsburg was put into prison. A couple of people. It was very, very prominent people.
Volvo ran away to San Francisco.
In the meantime, what happened was that the Israeli consulate called up some of the heads of the community. I wasn't there, so I don't know all the details. And they basically said, you have to get rid of this rabbi. Because of him and his hate thing, that's why Rabin was shot.
I didn't know it.
It sounds crazy.
This is what actually happened. My father lost his job, and then he lost his health, and my mother got sick. I mean, it was a big thing.
It was a big hit on him, right?
A tremendous hit. What are you talking about? He was
he alive?
he was on top over there. And he was a rabbi over 40 years. This wasn't fair.
How much influence could he have really had on this?
Of course, it's
Well, not
ridiculous,
realistically,
but the
how
fact of the matter is that when you have a powerful shul like that, there's always detractors. But this one came from the state of Israel. And suddenly it became a mitzvah. We have to stick up for the state of Israel. And in general, it was a time of paranoia. Just even in Eretz Yisrael, all over. I could say this, it's not a big thing. You know, Sandy Guilford, her husband, Todd Guilford, of blessed memory, who was a friend, And when it happened, he said to me, on Shabbos, are you going to talk about it? I said, no. He said, I want you to condemn it. I said, there's nothing to condemn.
Condemn the state?
I said, who's me? Well, I have to condemn this? If it's wrong, it's wrong. They don't need me in Israel for me to condemn it. He got so upset, he walked out of the shul, didn't have anything to do with me for like a couple of months. Then he came back. And then it was just paranoia, really. People like, I have to condemn it? He said, no, because you really agree with it. I said, I'm not going to tell you whether I agree with it or not. I could just tell you that Rabin was wrong in his policy. Whether or not he warranted to be shot, that's not for me to say. No rabbi said he should be shot. But no one rabbi would also say that because he was shot, the poor guy should be whatever. And they found out that the whole thing was a provocateur. That was actually, the whole thing was planned to begin with. But let's off the subject. There's a lot of stuff in Israel you don't want to know about. Mm-hmm. But your question was, how did he lose his job? The answer is that literally it came from the state of Israel. What happened was that after he lost his job, he sued the shul. And that became a big thing. They gave him a severance package. He moved to Florida. And then what happened was that the state of Israel put him on a list. You're not allowed to enter Israel. Oh, really? So this is true. Okay. So my father was very hurt by this because he had visited Israel 8 times, and each time he visited with a group, and he gave millions of dollars were raised to Israel, literally. And now you're saying I can't go to Israel because I'm an enemy. So he basically got one of the most prominent lawyers to do a lawsuit against the state of Israel. And what happened was, this slept on for, this is not the story like Rabbi Lipner suing Goldman. This was real. It actually happened. Anyway, to make the long story short, my father spent a lot of money on this because it hurt him really deep that he can't visit it. He's an enemy of it. He's not an enemy. He loves Israel. He loves Israel. That's why he didn't want it to go down the suicide path. To make the long story short, when it actually got close enough to go to court, they said we're dropping it. He's off the the list.
Okay.
But my father never visited Israel afterwards because my brother Eli told him they'll arrest you. They'll find a reason to arrest you, and that's why Eli he's also a Vilda, but he didn't want to go to Israel after because he felt that if they see the name Hecht, there's a lot of stuff that it's best that we don't talk about or know about. But anyway, it's to his credit that if you have to lose a job, he lost his job, not because of something bad that he said, it was whatever. But it took a very big toll. I mean, it wasn't the same. I remember when we were sitting shiva for my mother, it was very, very subdued, very, very quiet. That was already like 3-4 years after he lost his position. And whatever, and people from Crown Heights kept on coming because he's a Chabad rabbi, He didn't talk. When the people from the shul came, he came alive. And he was talking and explaining.
People came from shul?
Oh yeah.
After.
I'm sure a lot of them agree with him anyway.
A lot of them agree with him, yeah.
But that's making it a little bit weird. Like the board, really had to.
The one good thing about the Chabad rabbis that we have today is that there's no board. You can't fire me because you didn't hire me. And believe it or not, there's a strength to that. There's a big chesaron because you have to do everything yourself. Basically, if the people don't think you're worthy of support, they won't support you. No one's going to give you a salary if they don't. So, and to a certain extent, every Chabad rabbi very much needs the community. But there is a little bit of a strength to that. And that is, don't support me, but don't tell me what to do. You can't fire me. You never hired me. But in a big shul, every rabbi has to know, what does the board want? What does the board not want? Can I say it? And it's done.
We're having a woman rabbi come talk next week.
By the way, it's a good question we had on Thursday.
Yeah.
So when somebody go to shul like a lady
Not essentially.
to give a
why
speech off a podium on a different subject, but we'll go back to that. It's Kiddush Shedlock. It's like sins and stuff. So obviously, people, Rabbi finds it. How to say it?
Okay.
It's okay for somebody. I understand if it's a lecture in a private house, it's up to you, but it's a shul. So what is it? Heter? What is it like? What is it based on that lady can speak from a?
But when is she speaking? So first of all, what's the
It's
context?
it doesn't matter. It's Shabbos.
No, it doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter.
Shabbos during the drasha.
Okay, great. So
Don't fight.
I'm not fighting. I just want to see according to the. Is there a law?
She's speaking after davening.
I thought she was speaking during the.
Not essentially. I guess.
The answer is that I can't say anything. We have a rabbi. It's his shul. He should make the decision.
Not the shul. In general.
So we could just talk about in general. Today 2.5 million women marched around the world.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know what are they marching for.
I have no idea what they were marching for, but it's really an amazing statement. So
Trump took away their yaitzus.
So the bottom line is that a lot of the stuff that is considered sneas, I don't want to say the word has changed. It has to be. There's nothing to listen because I'm a little drunk and I'm not.
But you said sneeze, so that's. I think that's
The issue. Okay, so in general, there's nowhere does it even have a hint that a woman cannot teach Torah. And we have, those of you that read some of the books that talk about halachas of women, they all have beautiful introductions, and they have, cases where this, in the Rishonim, early times where the woman was a Talmud Chacham, and she used to teach behind there's nothing that a woman can't do that a man can do in sense of Torah. She could learn, she could study, she could teach. The question simply is, so there's no Isser, it's never forbidden for a woman to give a drasha of Torah or to teach a blat Gemara. If she wants to teach a blat Gemara, you want to learn from her, you can. There's no issue with that in terms of Torah. The only question is in terms of sneas. And sneas has two parts. There's the woman who's sonua, who's modest, and then there's also, she might be modest, but maybe the men don't see it the same way. And this is nothing new, because men and women have different ways of seeing themselves, and so on. So a man might think, I didn't do anything inappropriate, and she thinks it is. And she might say, I didn't do anything inappropriate, but the man said, so this I could say it because I was a teacher in Hebrew Academy. I remember I asked the kids, can anyone give me a definition of flirting? Because this is what happens in school. And first they were shy. No one wanted to give me a definition of flirting. I said, can anyone give me an action of flirting? And the girl said, when they go like this with the hair.
Like Trump.
Whatever it is. That's called flirting. Okay. Now, basically, if you were to, this is true, this is what they said, Obviously, oh, you were once. I'm sorry, I forgot all.
No, it's fine.
So totally insensitive.
It's
I actually remember one thing you told me. I'll never forget it, but I can't say it over here.
I don't want to hear it.
I can tell you outside of you. I will never forget it. But the point of it is that
A little bit of shame.
if a girl goes like that, what does that mean? The point of it is not. It doesn't have to mean anything. All I want to say is that it could mean something to the boy, which the girl does not mean, or it can mean something to the girl. She wants the boy to look, and the boy doesn't get it. He's an idiot. He's trying to figure out did she wash with shampoo? So she goes, So I'm just saying, tznius. There are two things. One is absolute tznius, and then there's also tznius in terms of the woman for herself, and then there's tznius in terms of the man. A classic example would be a shaitel. A classic example of a shaitel would be, how is that tznius? She covers her hair, but she looks so attractive. What's the answer? For the woman, it's tznius. She knows that her hair is covered, and that's the main thing. The man is not supposed to look at a woman anyway. It doesn't make a difference if she had her own hair or a shaitel hair. He's not supposed to be looking, period. It's not for the man, the shaitel. The shaitel is for her. And that's why it doesn't really make a difference how attractive the shaitel is in halacha, as long as her hair is covered. So you understand, tznius it's a very sensitive issue because there are absolutes to tznius, and then there's also tznius in terms of perception. There's a lot of change today, which not necessarily, and different communities have it differently. So, for example, you can't compare a community in America to a community in Bnei Brak or Ashdod. You know what I mean? Over there, every event, the men and women are separated with a mechitza. Bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, a lecture that's never given together. They're finished. A kiddush, you can't have them sitting in the same room. There's separate rooms. Entrance, you have an entrance for Gavar. That's the way, in a sense, it should be. You can't do that in Adat Israel. You can't do it in RTC. You can't do it in many places in America. So is it not sneersdik for a man and a woman to walk through the same hallway? Some of that would be dependent on, again, where it is and what it is. To answer your question, for a woman to give a drasha,
No problem.
there's no problem in terms of the drasha. The question is, sneers. What is she, when she's up there, is she totally focused on the drasha? Which basically means, obviously, she wants to be dressed nicely, that's clear. But is her mind on the drasha in contrast to, I have 75 men looking at me, and no one can answer that question. Even she really can't answer the question so well because it's a very sensitive question. But you know what I'm saying? So the question is for her, and the same question is about the men. What are they most focused on? On the content of what she has to say or the presentation of what she has to say? So, you know what I'm saying? So this is a question that has to be done, each person differently. Okay. I could tell you something about
Train them not to pay attention during the speech in general.
But it's interesting, more people will listen to the lady than to the rabbi.
You're 100% right.
But if she was behind a screen,
if she was behind the screen, that would actually be much more kosher. I went to New York, this is from Chabad, and I think I told you, there was Shimon Tzupernik, whatever her name is, gave a speech on Friday, and the men were on one side, the woman was on the other side, she was on a lectern, and I felt uncomfortable. I was thinking to myself, like, this is not right. And obviously, it's tolerated. It's tolerated, and this is in Kornais. Whether or not they asked the rabbi, I do not know. And she was very tzniusdik, and it was a good speech. I mean, it was really nice.
She's a great speaker.
She is. She's really good. And the bottom line is, I felt very uncomfortable. I don't think I was the only one. When she goes with her hands and she's flowery speaking, men and women, that's all. So the answer to that question would be, it depends on the place and on the person. And you have to, there's also a second issue, which is secondary. It's not a question of tznius, it's more a question of what are we trying to accomplish. If we're trying to accomplish that, you see that Orthodox Judaism respects scholarship, whether it's coming from a male or a female, that too needs to be understood. Let me put it this way. I don't know how many of you heard of Nechama Leibowitz. You heard of it, right? She's a biblical scholar. I have some of her books. It was amazing. She came, I think, to the Bay Area, and I think it was the Bay Area, maybe Los Angeles. The men they went crazy. You have to hear her. She's not such a great scholar. And you have, it was almost like the men were tripping over themselves to show how open-minded they are, that they could listen to a lady teach Chumash and Rashi and Mefarshim. In other words, there's a sense of complete, there's no honesty. It's a big show. And I could go on and on, but I don't want to because she is here, and he's gonna. I didn't know you were gonna be here. So between a former student and a son, I'm sure he go.
He's gonna tell Mordechai.
Yeah.
He's gonna.
Yeah. Anyway, l'chaim everybody. The answer is you have to use brains, and you need a lot of divine assistance to know when yeah and when not. L'chaim.
I know myself.
Share. What do you want to drink?
He's driving. He came to pick up your father, right? That's. I got so that. So, but back to your father. So your father came and remember he stayed. You remember he built the room and everything. So he was supposed to stay.
The dancer or what?
No, he was not supposed to stay in San Francisco.
But he came and stayed for a while. No?
He actually came to San Francisco when he visited my brother in Los Angeles.
Right,
He
but
came
he
on
still
a couple days.
I thought he came often. It was just a couple of days.
Just a couple of days. He came twice to San Francisco.
I remember first time it was Shmuel Breeze. I remember.
Right.
Second time after.
Came twice. Both of them very, very short times.
Also, somebody said he never wanted to move or anything like from Davis or any of them.
No, he stayed in Crown Heights, you know. When my mom died, he was very sad because basically in Crown Heights, all of the grandchildren would stop by. So he always had people in the house. But at that time, his wife had died, and he was always so bitter. She always lived for that moment where she see the grandchildren, and when it finally happened, she never passed away. I know, whatever. Okay. No. Chaim L'Bracha.
A little Shomar, you have to say already the Zionis. Oh, he already like
No, this is good. I said 10:30, very good.
No.
Excellent timing.
Tomorrow's Sunday, it's a day off.
7:30, Tanya.
Rabbi, thank
Gotta go.
Where are you going? Are you going already?
I gotta go.
Why? Kids are sleeping.
Yeah,
Tati has to go to sleep.
Billy.
all right.
Yeah, just put it there. Чая хочется.
Anyways, but those are
So
the
shit, did you drive? Did you drive?
Yeah, okay, so you have to make that.
that was my point.
Your father was afraid, like, how to get home.
We're trying to make it more attractive.
Uber, he
Right,
said.
so what we were-
But now you're
we want to
here.
bring in more liberal, open-minded people, right?
Huh? No, here's the car, but he will leave it on the rear,
Our
huh?
own choices. And so I think that's why they're going in that direction.
No.
So that was my point in bringing it up, not to the whole discussion.
Okay. Hey, da 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 dum, da da dum bum bum bum, da da dum bum 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 bum, da da dum bum bum bum, da da dum bum bum bum, da 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 da
Bye.
You know, it's Alter Rebbe's night. We should really sing one of his nagunim, right? One of the Alter Rebbe has 10 nagunim that are associated with him. The easiest one to sing is Kiriyata, right? Okay,
trying to get away with you.
Just nigunim
There's a very well-known story. It's really an Aveda story from the Alter Rebbe. The story goes that he had a chassid who acted sort of like a bank. You have to remember, in days of old, in the late 1700s, there were some banks, but not common. So if a person had money, very often he would try to find someone wealthy to hold on to the money for him. So there was a chassid in one of the towns or villages that was well-to-do, and he was the unofficial bank of the town. Because he was, Baruch Hashem, well-to-do, he had many relatives. Each one of them had a reason why the relatives should support him. He was very good-natured, and he was a big Baal Tzedakah, and he promised everyone everything. He said, I'll help you with the marriage of your daughter, and this and that. In addition to which, there were people that gave him money just to hold on. What happened was, and he was a very devoted chassid of the Rebbe, and he was everything was going well until things stopped going well. And the business went down, and this happened, and essentially he lost his money. When he lost his money, he realized that it's not a personal catastrophe. He promised money to a lot of people. They were relying on him, so they would be disappointed. Plus, in his house, if something had happened, some of the money that was given to him for safekeeping was lost. As a devoted chassid, he realized that he needs supernatural powers, so he went to the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, the Shnei Zalman. When he came in, he told the Alter Rebbe the story, and he said like this, he said, if it's destined that I should be poor, I don't have any complaints. Hashem knows what he's doing. If I'm supposed to be poor, I'll be poor. But before I accept the punishment of being poor, I have to marry off my children. I have to marry off the children that I promised. I have to give back. I have a lot of things that I have to do, and if I'm not able to do it, not only is it terrible, but it's also be a chilul Hashem, because they trusted me because I'm a chassid and I'm religious, and here I am. I'm disappointing them. Rabbi, I need help. Hashem has to help me. And in the story, the Alter Rebbe was listening with his hands on his head or his face, whatever. And after listening, he said to the Chassid, he said, "You're telling me everything that you need, and what Hashem has to fulfill your need. But can you tell me, why does Hashem need you?" And of course, when he heard those words, are very, very powerful and sharp. Here I am, I'm giving Hashem a list of demands, what He has to do for me. But did you ever ask yourself what you have to do for Hashem? So it hit him so strongly that it says that he fainted. And of course, the people that were waiting outside to see the Rebbe heard a thud. They quickly opened up the door. There's a guy unconscious. They take him out, and when he became, when he was revived. Thank you. When he was revived, he sent a telegram to his house saying that he cannot go home right away. He has things to do, very important. They probably assumed that he's doing business, but he basically thought deeply, why does Hashem need me? And what happened was, he spent the next couple of weeks learning, davening, fasting, but all with joy. In other words, he forgot about everything. And he said, what does Hashem want from me? What does Hashem need from me? That I should serve Him. And that's what he did. He learned, he davened, he prayed, he fasted a lot, but always with simcha. No one could even notice that there was something not right with him. And weeks passed. The Shabbos before Hanukkah, or maybe it was on Hanukkah, the Alter Rebbe gave a mimer. He gave over a teaching, and he spoke that there are two worlds. There's the world of Tohu, the world of Tikkun. The world of Tohu is a world where there's much intense spiritual light, but the vessels are not wide enough to, or strong enough to contain them. In the world of Tikkun, the vessels are made in a way that it could contain the light, but there's much less light. And the job of a Jew is to take the lights of Tohu, which are very intense, and put it into the vessel of Tikkun. Now, let me explain this before I finish the story. There's in the Igris, you know that there are books, the Chabad Prince, which has the letters of the Rebbe. So in the Igris of the previous Rebbe, I think it's volume 9, but in the Igris of the he quotes the story and he gives an explanation. He says when a person learns and davens and is aware that he's learning and he's davening, that's the symbol of Tohu. There's a lot of light. But in this case, the light is him. The vessel is Torah and mitzvahs, but he's filled with light. And when a person learns and davens with that thought, look at how great I am, I'm learning, I'm davening, I'm serving Hashem, the lights will shatter the vessel. The vessel, of course, is again Torah mitzvahs. So you have to put the lights of Tohu into the vessel of Tikkun. The person who's aware that he's serving Hashem has to be put, so to speak, in its proper place. It's not about me. It's a wide vessel that I'm in. In any case, Alter Rebbe said the Maimar, and Chassidim did not understand why he was saying it at that time, but it would seem that he was fixing this person's vessels. And after the Maimar, after Shabbos, he went into the Alter Rebbe for Yechidus, and the Alter Rebbe gave him a bracha that he should be restored, and sure enough, he went back and he became successful again. As if to say, the lights of Tohu went into the vessels of Tikkun. The story's been repeated many, many times by the Chabad rabbis and certainly by the Mashpiyim, because it's a very, very important lesson, and that is, every one of us has a shopping list that we expect Hashem to fulfill. And it's a good shopping list. I mean, in other words, I want, I need, how can I serve you if I'm not well? How can I serve you if I don't have a good job? How can I serve you if my wife is not attractive? How can I serve you if the kids are not sweet? How can I serve you if I don't have a good school? How can I serve you if I don't have vacation time? I mean, it's a long list, and it's not all unreasonable from our perspective. What I'm saying is, if you'll check this, and this, you'll have a perfect Jew. We'll be friends. And the problem with that is that we keep on saying what we need, and we don't often ask ourselves, what does Hashem want from us? In fact, what does He need from us? To a certain extent, I'm not even equating the two. I'm just speaking haphazardly in a sense. When it comes to a community, this refers to Adat Israel as well, certainly refers to any community. A lot of people say like this: if the community will check off all the things that I need, so it'll give me, a good chazan, a good rabbi, a good kiddush, something for the children, something for the wives, something for, then I'll be involved. Because look, they're fulfilling all of my needs, so how could I be an ingrate? But you never ask yourself, joining a community, there's only X amount of religious Jews, what do they need me for? How can I be helpful for the community? Well, I paid membership, they owe me. No, they don't owe you anything. You have to ask yourself, now, you understand, what are you needed for? Often, it's a very powerful question, because sometimes you can't think of a good answer. What am I needed for? And then you're forced into thinking, what is there about you that could actually be could be helpful, not only for you, for others. So it's a good story and an important story. That it's true, the Eibishter does have to give us, because He's Over Rachman, He's a compassionate Father, and that's what we expect of a compassionate Father to do. So we could say, Tata in Himmel, Father in Heaven, maybe I don't deserve it, but I need it anyway. But that's one thing. But you also, at least at times, you have to say to yourself, what does Hashem need me for on earth? What am I doing for Him in the Bay Area? And it's a good question. And when you think about that question, you'll come up with, the Hashem Himself will give you what you can do. And then it will be the lights of Tohu in the vessel of Tikkun. And I will say, L'chaim, and we're going to bench. At least I will. Yeah. Because when I start talking like this, it's not a good sign.
Are you cutting it short?
I'm not cutting it short. I'm saying to myself that if I'm talking like this, I shouldn't stop talking.
No,
I was not.
Well, we're just getting started.
You came late, that's why.
Rabbi Ahron promised us, and as soon as school is finished, he's out of here.
What?
No, Rabbi Ahron told us that as soon as school is finished, he's out of here. And I think he
kept his job. He kept his word.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I still have a lot of respect. No, he's coming back, but he's coming back. I mean, it's Zen Gumutin, but still, I think he did a tremendous job for his kids. I mean, look around.
Yeah, when we start talking about individuals, it's not going to be good. Let's not.
No. He brought up.
I brought up that he told us that his only job was school, and as soon as he's done with the school, he's
so he kept that part. Yeah, he kept that part. He kept that part. But the bottom line is that there is a need for a school, and that's what.
No, there is a school.
Yeah, so
there is a school. There is a building. We need a building, but
we need a good school.
if this is a
we need a big school for everyone. Not just
looks like they're not really looking to give it away.
Not Jerusalem. Leave it here. Jerusalem.
You know what? Like you said,
The embassy is going to be in Jerusalem.
Yeah,
the school we need here.
School to Jerusalem.
We're very close.
So
but it's a big change.
Why did we take the school?
It was a miracle. It's like one year, like 60 kids in the school. I mean, it is a miracle.
So we're on the way to build the school, but still we have issues.
As long as there is a Chabad.
As long as there's going to be life, there'll always be issues with chinuch. Chinuch is always something that will always be something that needs to be improved on. That's all.
Well, I think we have already enough kids. We need building.
Yeah, agreed. So then you ask yourself, how can I get the building? Or what can I do? What expertise do I have that can maybe help us get the building? Mm-hmm. Talk to the people in charge. Rabbi, your rabbi wants to be involved. He is involved.
He is involved.
Ask him.
I heard all you need is just $2 million.
The truth of the matter, it's not a lot of money when you think about the type of money that's out there.
Yeah.
No, so the question
It's
is...
trivial, actually, if we were to honestly discuss that topic.
Yeah, it's not only trivial, it's a chilul Hashem that in a place like the Bay Area, together with all of the different people that, I'm including myself, I mean, we can't work together to raise $2 million. We can. Why hasn't it happened? I really don't know. I'm not in charge. I don't know. But I'm just saying, to raise $2 million for education, to buy a building, is really,
In San Francisco.
in San Francisco, it's, I mean, it's.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. They want to sell
It's
it.
silly, it really is silly, I mean, it
Who
doesn't
came
make
up with the
sense.
number $2 million?
Talk to Rabbi Peel.
They don't.
For what? What's
Talk to Rabbi Peel. He'll tell you all about it.
So for 2 million,